Heathers, am I right, lads? Hi, this is my face. Okay. Anyways, today I wanted to talk about something very interesting to me. And that is Heathers. I have this DVD right here. I love this movie. I love the musical. I love Heathers so much. Hey, Heathers team, if you ever do a movie version of the musical, it'd be a really good Veronica. I haven't even been, like, that much out of high school, and
Let me be Veronica.
I'm 20. How old was Winona when she played Veronica? Like, 17, 18? Yeah, I'm in the ballpark. Anyways, today I wanted to talk about the movie, just my thoughts on it, the characters. Oh boy, the characters. I have a lot to say about this. I don't have a lot to say about Heather Chandler because, let's be real, she isn't in a lot of the movie. She's in the musical a bit more, but Heathers came out. Huh? 1996? I thought it came out earlier. So, it came out, I think, the year after Beetlejuice came out, which was another movie with Winona Ryder, where she played Lydia. I actually really love Beetlejuice. Winona Ryder, I love you. Honestly, I love a lot of the Veronicas. I love Winona. I love Barrett. I love Carrie Hope Fletcher. I honestly I love my Veronicas. I love you. This is going to get cut out. A lot of this is going to get cut out. I'm not even the editor. I'm not even editing my own video. So let's talk about the plot of Heathers. Which, it basically just consists of two people who, are madly in love, but also madly messed up, getting into a relationship and deciding to murder people because that is the way to success. Those are the reason these guys are murdering. Because they are in love, I guess. But I will talk to you about the characters, the musical, on what I think they did better in the musical, what I think they did better in the movie, if I enjoy the original musical or the West End version more. I've seen both. They're both amazing. I have the Heathers soundtrack somewhere. Hold on. Got it! I got it. So, the Heathers soundtrack. I have some things to say. My first thing to say is that, oh boy, I really have to. The fact that I have to, like, when people ask me what my favorite musical is, I'm like, oh, I really like Heathers. And they're like, okay. And then they hear the song Blue and they're like, and I have to explain to them the plot. Because they're like, this is creepy. And I'm like, it's supposed to be. And they're like, why do you like this if you're assigned female at birth? Okay, look. I do not condone the actions of Kurt and Ram in the Heathers musical or in the Heathers movie. I don't condone the actions of Kurt and Ram. I just think they're funny. Not when they try to, with Veronica. Yeah. It is a dark comedy, though. But, let's see, out of all of the songs in this musical, I gotta give it to 17. 17 is my favorite song of the entire musical. I think it really shows how Veronica really wanted to have a normal, happy relationship with JD, but he's kind of an idiot. and doesn't know how normal relationships work. But we'll get to that. First, I want to start with our girl, Veronica, our main character. Now, one thing about her that we see, like, quite a lot in the movie and in the musical, she is very awkward, but she's also very smart. She does know what she's doing. She's got that big brain, especially when it comes to foiling JD, but again, we'll get to that. But we're gonna basically go through the movie over and over and over and over and over again, except for I think Heather Chandler. And I won't even go into Kurt and Ram. I just won't. All you need to know is they're known for smacking lunch trays and being a huge dick. Veronica is a very witty teenage girl who really has her thoughts about the world around her and where she is. Because you can definitely see that she knows what she's talking about when it comes to mental health and how she thinks people her age should be treated, which we will get to. But we will first start at the beginning. I'm going to start with the musical first because I think that the musical does give a lot of backstory to how on earth she ended up with the Heathers, because the movie doesn't give that backstory. So, Veronica can forge handwriting. Veronica, Taman, you two are very similar. Taman can forge all of Shiny's signatures. Veronica can forge any person's handwriting that she can think of off the top of her head. Slay, I guess. But she can forge a little... What's it called? Bathroom pass? Hall pass? She forges a pass saying that she was dismissed from the yearbook committee with the 3 Heathers. And the Heathers are like, what do you want? And she's just like, okay, people have been making fun of me this whole time, and I'm really sick of it. Can you just, I don't know, let me sit at your table? Just once? No talking necessary? If people think that you guys tolerate me, then maybe they'll leave me alone. Sorry. I will go into these tirades. I will start going off and just, you know. I also really like how the musical says things in, like, diary entries. I really think that's really smart. But we will get to that. That is how Veronica gets into the clique of the Heathers. Now, what the movie starts with is a little croquet scene where we get introduced to Heather, and Heather. Those Heathers being Heather Chandler, who is the one who is always red. Her representative color is red, which also means stop. Stop, you've gone too far. Stop. Think of them as stoplights. Think of these girls as stoplights. Heather's like, stop, you've gone too far. Heather McNamara is like a yellow. She's easily manipulated. Honestly, Heather McNamara is the best Heather out of all of the Heathers. Heather Duke? Well, no discernible personality, but her mom did pay for implants. She's green, which means go. There's nothing she can do to stop you. At least not now. Foreshadowing. Anyways, so the 3 Heathers. We're introduced to them, and then we're introduced to, and Veronica, what's her color? Blue. Which I like. I like blue. We like blue. I should have put on, like, my Heather Chandler wig for this. Because I did. I did a little cosplay for Heather Chandler, like, 2-3 years ago. I've been a fan of Heathers since, like, Heathers since, like, years ago. I think I first got into Heathers, like, freshman year of high school. And I'm fresh out of high school. No, I've been out of high school for like 2 years now. I'm 20, baby. Anyways. So, out of the three Heathers, who do you think is going to be the biggest problem for Veronica? Let's take a wild guess. And now we come to the lunch scene, where we see a character named Martha Dunstock, who I love her. She is Pookie. Martha Dunstock is Pookie, and I love her. We must protect Martha at all costs. And Betty Finn. I know Betty Finn isn't in the musical, but she's in the movie as Veronica's friend, where Martha takes that role in the musical. Betty is also Pookie. Betty Finn and Martha, you two are Pookie, and I love you. Anyways, I keep going off on side tangents. I am sorry. Hopefully, you guys like hearing me yap. Yeah. So, the Heathers ask Veronica to forge a note from one of Kurt and Ram. I don't really care which, they're both assholes. From one of them to Martha. Just being like, hey, I've really missed you, you know? Like, you're so beautiful, and like, I'd love if you could come to my party, you know? Just, you come to my party. Obviously, this was not written by the football boys. They do not care. But the Heathers convince Veronica to do it anyways. Depending on if you're watching the movie or the musical, it's in a different way. In the musical, it's by a song, because of course it is. I love Candy Store. It's so good. I'd start singing it, but we'd get copyright claimed, and that would not be fun. And in the movie, it's done by just convincing her. Just being like, grow up, Veronica. I forgot exactly what she said, but it's like something about Girl Scouts or something. I feel like I heard Girl Scouts. I don't know. I don't know every single quote from the movie, but I can tell you every single word of Candy Store. I wonder what color the Jeep is. Is it black? Or is it one of the Heathers colors? Is it all of the Heathers colors? Is it blue? Is it Veronica's Jeep, but they stole it? I don't think Veronica can drive. She doesn't own a motorbike, you know. Sorry. Anyways, so the thing about Veronica, she doesn't want to be a bully like the Heathers are. She just wants people to stop bullying her. And she sees this guy from across the cafeteria, and she's just like,
This guy, he's kinda hot.
like, she for real does the the little Debbie Ryan radio rebel. Sorry. I will stop. So Veronica ends up writing that note. And they give it to Heather. They give it to Martha, and she reads it. She goes to the boys, and they read it, and they start laughing at her because they didn't write it, and she just storms out the cafeteria. I think she comes back later, and JD's like, greetings and salutations to Martha as well, and it's so funny. Like, I think this is one of the funniest parts in the whole movie is just when JD says, greetings and salutations. He speaks so eloquently. Well, by the way, we will get to that. We will get to that when we do the JD character analysis. So Veronica meets JD and all that. And Heather is saying to Veronica, like, you're coming to the frat party with me. Which, by the way, in the movie, it's a frat party. In the musical, it's just a little house party thrown by Kurt and Ram. Either way, Veronica ends up puking on Heather. And Heather is like, this is what I get? I'm paid in puke! And Veronica says the best line in the whole damn movie. Lick it up, baby. Lick it. And I love that for her. Me too. I just love how she says it. But, yeah. And this is how we get Heather on our bad side. And so, she's back home. Or, she's going to JD's house. And either way, they get a bit freaky. They get a bit freaky. They get a bit freaky. In like the movie, it's like croquet, but in the musical, it's Dead Girl Walking. Boy, I love Dead Girl Walking. I'm sorry. The song is really something. Like, they really just went for it, and honestly, I commend that. I love that. Let's do more of that. Let's make the parents hate shows even more. I know that, like, your kid should not be watching Heathers, but, like, I was like 15, 14, 15 when I found Heathers, so. Oopsies. But a Christian's nightmare is Heathers. Anyways, the next day, they go to Heather to feed her a little hangover cure. Which Veronica honestly just wants to make her puke her guts out, as she says in the movie. And JD decides to pour a little cup of liquid drainer, of drain cleaner, in a little cup. And Veronica's like, don't be a dick. That stuff will kill her. Like, that's not the... And she decides to just put orange juice and milk in a cup. They put the cups next to each other, and she mixes it up and grabs the drain cleaner. JD says, oh, Veronica, wait up. Because she grabbed the wrong one. And she's like, And JD's like, nothing. Because this is what he wants. This is what he wants. Because he is in love with Veronica. And we will get to that. We will get to that when we actually get to the JD character analysis. Right now I'm just going through the plot. And then I'm going to go through little things about each character that I find to be interesting. This is probably going to be an hour long. We love that. So they bring the drink to Heather. And she's just like, I'm not going to drink that. JD says, I knew it was too strong. And she takes that as a challenge. And she drinks it, crashes into a glass table, corn nuts, she's dead. And then Veronica's like, oh no, I just killed my best friend. And JD's just like, and your worst enemy. She's just like, same difference. I think that's funny. I really think that line's funny. I love Heathers. Okay. These murders continue on. Whenever somebody hurts Veronica, they end up dead, like with Kurt and Ram. When they make up a little story on how Veronica did it with them one night. Both of them. And then, they plan a little thing with some Ichluga bullets. What does that mean? Oh, it translates to I lied. Take a guess what's gonna happen. They end up dead. But don't worry, it's just because they couldn't talk about their gay forbidden love. I love Heathers. And so Veronica, who honestly did not know she was going to kill them that day, finds out, and she's upset, breaks up with him. He doesn't take that lightly. So he decides, oh, I'm gonna literally kill everybody. And so he just blow up the school. By the way, this was in the 80s. Before any of that school shooting actually happened, any of those really big school shooting events like Columbine, of course, I feel nothing but deep condolences for those who were affected by any kind of school violence. It is not okay, and we need gun control in America to keep our kids safe. Because, honestly, it is sickening to look at the news and see more kids dead. That is my view of the situation. And, yeah. We will continue. He wants to kill Veronica. Because he doesn't know how to deal with the fact that Veronica doesn't want him. Ooh, I just found a bracelet. Okay. Sorry. Just saw a little bracelet I made and I was like, I'm gonna put that on. Now I have a little bracelet. Guess my Stray Kids bias. Oh. Guess my Stray Kids bias. You'll never guess. You will never guess. You will never guess. I didn't know or that was what I said. You will never guess. Okay. So, JD wants to, kill Veronica and make it look like another self-report. That's what I'm gonna call it, a self-report. Like, when you play Among Us? Yeah. And you report yourself. But think about that as death. Self-report. I can't say the big S word on this channel. I can't say it on YouTube. Or else I will get demonetized. I'm sure I'm already demonetized by my word choicing already, but whatever. And so I'm gonna make this quicker. He goes to school. She follows because she's not dead. She made it look like she was dead, but she's not dead. But she made it look like she was dead so he wouldn't hurt her. I skipped over that part. I'm sorry. Bam! Huge boom in the basement. It hasn't gone boom yet, but it's going to. And she doesn't know how to turn it off, and he won't tell her. Anyways, it gets turned off somehow. She walks out. He booms himself. And that's how the movie ends. Now I will go into detail about the different characters. Veronica. She is a lot more, again, witty. She knows what she's talking about. She knows what she wants when it comes to the school kind of just seeing these deaths as a little time to think about living. Think about how this makes us feel. Revel in the emotions. She thinks it's stupid and wants them to treat it how it is. Like an issue. Because, yes, as we should be giving people sympathy. Who, not like sympathy, but you know what I mean. We should still be grieving for those who did this to themselves. We should still be grieving. And I don't think that is right to say, like, oh, they didn't die normally, which means we shouldn't give them that same amount of, like, no. No. I'm not gonna hear that from you. What we see is Veronica has a much needed character change throughout the movie. She starts as kind of like this shy girl who doesn't really speak up. She kind of just, I guess, follows to somebody who can speak up against injustice, and stand for herself in a world like this. She becomes very outspoken, and we can see, even though her life isn't perfect, it's pretty put together, I'd say. She's more put together than a lot of the other characters in this film. Of course, she's not innocent, but she was definitely manipulated by JD, which we will get to. We will get to it now because I actually want to talk about JD. So the thing about JD, I've actually talked about this earlier with some of my friends. I did a little character analysis earlier, so I will kind of recap it here. Basically, so about JD. He was definitely abused from a very, very young age by his father. His father also likely abused his mother. His mother, who ended up dying after getting, boomed in a building. Yep. You can tell she was done. She did it on purpose. She went into that building on purpose. She knew what was going to happen. She knew what she was doing. JD was right about that. That she knew. And JD honestly never got any love in his life. He said this in the show, in the movie, in the end. He says he never really got any kind of love in his life. Because he didn't really have a mother. His father didn't really care. He was kind of absent. So he kind of just had to live on his own. And he kept moving around place to place to place to place to place. When Heather C gets murdered, we can see a part where JD sounds very, 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 confident about his skills on covering this up. And she asked him, have you done this before? And he stays silent. He has done this before. JD has done this before. Why do you think he's moved to so many different schools? So he could get away. He's done it before. And you can't tell me he hasn't. Another thing about JD is that I think this is the first time we ever see Veronica hurting herself, putting a lighter, I guess, into her palm, and JD just takes a cigarette, lights it on it. Which would hurt. He doesn't really care about anybody getting hurt. Except for Veronica, I guess, because he kills anybody who messes with Veronica. And he kills anybody who messes with him, so. Sorry, Veronica. But you can tell throughout the movie, if his upbringing wasn't like this, he'd be a normal person. Think about that for a minute. Think about the psychological. Think about how it is when it, serial killers. They have different things in their mind. They have a lot of psychological stuff. So you can really, dig deep into that. I like doing that, where it's, just digging deep into the psychological stuff on serial killers. I think is very interesting, and I think that'd be a really cool thing to look into when it comes to JD. Because his trauma and his abuse, it is a cycle. The way he was treated is the way he treats Veronica. The father isn't really a good person, now is he? JD is a master manipulator, that's for sure. Now, on to Heather Chandler. The thing about Heather is that we don't know much about her backstory either. We don't know much about really any of the backstories except for a little bit of Veronica's, in the sense of Betty Finn and Martha in the musical. So when it comes to Heather Chandler, all we know is she skips going to her grandparents on Sunday. And her parents were kind of absent, sensing that her parents don't really care about her. And honestly, I feel like that would be the case. The way she treats others is like she wants attention. She wants attention. She wants all of the attention on her. I'm assuming that's because she never got any attention from her parents at home. Which would make sense. And that's kind of why she's the way she is. She wasn't really... I guess she is really spoiled. But in the same sense that the kids on Jessie were spoiled. The parents weren't home. They were just with the butler and their babysitter. The parents weren't really there for their kid's life, which is kind of really awful, but you know. It is the same situation. Jessie, like the Disney show Jessie, and Heather Chandler's life. Very similar. I'm assuming the parents were absent a lot, didn't really care, but kind of just gave her whatever she wanted to shut her up. And that's kind of why she craves all this power. Heather Duke, however, who is the green Heather, she's a little bit of a mixed bag. She obviously wants what Heather Chandler has. She struggles with an eating disorder in the film and in the musical, which she immediately recovers from after Heather's death, which is interesting. Do I feel like she did it because she didn't feel like she was good enough? Yes. I feel like the reason she had an eating disorder was because she didn't feel like she was loved, and she felt like the only way to be appreciated was to be skinny. She was already pretty skinny. And note, the movie and the musical don't really talk about her. My water was in the way for that whole thing. Okay. Just forget that's there. But Heather Duke, honestly, after Heather Chandler's death, she perked up a lot. She ended up taking Heather Chandler's spot of power. And you can tell that she really had been craving that the whole time. Her eating disorder is magically cured. And she just lives on like normal. By the way, I don't think a lot of the characters in this show are actually good people. Except Martha and Betty. I love you. Cookies? Okay. And Heather McNamara, who is the head cheerleader, but still struggles with a lot of issues. Like, the fact that she never feels good enough as well. She feels like her life is constantly going downhill while everybody's dying. And she feels like she's on a sinking boat. The tiniest lifeboat, perhaps. But Heather McNamara definitely has a lot of problems, and she almost self-reports in the show, in the movie. And Veronica stops her, and I think that is really interesting that Veronica stops her from doing it, because Veronica actually really cares. And Heather McNamara ends up becoming a pretty nice character, I think. I don't know. She doesn't really pop up. But I think she really does care about people after that whole situation. I think she is the least bad of the Heathers, I'd say. I don't know. I can fix her. Guys, I can fix her. I can fix McNamara. As for Martha, I will talk about Martha. Betty, I don't have much to talk about other than the fact that she's Veronica's friend. But Martha, I have a lot more to talk about because I can talk about her in the musical. as Veronica's best friend because they erased Betty. They erased Betty Finn. They erased... I'm upset. Anyways. She honestly still holds on to that romance she had in kindergarten with one of the football boys, and it shows. And honestly, noting that nothing else in the whole world goes right for her, I would do the same thing. But I had a crush on somebody who was in a football, who played football. How'd that go for me? Take a wild guess. Well, I'm single, so that's how that went for me. She's holding on to that. She really wants her happy ending, and I honestly get it. She was bullied her whole life for being plus size. They called her Martha Dump Truck, which is honestly so disgusting. I will, I guess, rank the characters in order of who I would want to be friends with the most. So I'm gonna put my mic over here. Out of all the characters, honestly, JD is pretty low, but I'd say Kurt and Ram are at the bottom. They are the bottom. They are the bottom of the barrel. I would never want to spend my time with them ever because I feel like that would end badly for me and for them because I'd beat them up. Okay. Then JD, because I don't want to get manipulated. Thank you. Then Heather Chandler, because I get bullied. Then Heather Duke. Then Heather McNamara. Heather McNamara is the top of the Heathers. I feel like Martha and I, our personalities wouldn't really catch on. In the sense that I like horror movies, and she doesn't. So, I'd probably put her in third. In second, I would put Veronica. Because who would want two me's in the same room? And in first place, wow, Betty Finn. Betty, I want to get to know you. Betty, I want to get to know you more. Please. Okay, if you, Heather's team, if you decide to do a movie of the musical, and you decide to cast me as Veronica, which you really should, I can prove it. I can prove it right now, actually. I'm joking. Cast, or just bring back Betty. Bring her back, please. I never knew that a talk about one of my favorite pieces of media in the whole world, Heathers, would end with me begging for Betty to come back. Ooh. What should I do a rant on next? What kind of media do you want to see me do a rant on next? Knowing how, I can talk about a lot of my interests. And I think one of my biggest interests is a movie called Carrie, which I really can go in depth on. I can go in depth on the book, the movie, the musical, both versions. I can go into the history of the musical. If you want to hear me rant about that, let me know in the comments. If you want to hear me rant about K-pop, if you want to hear me rant about VIX, which I will do, I promise I'll rant about VIX. I promise that will happen. If you want to hear me rant about my Stray Kids bias, I would gladly do that. I would gladly make a whole video about why I love Hyunjin. If you want to hear me rant about ATEEZ, what I think of their lore, how much I want to cry when I think about it, and if you want to hear me talk about Beetlejuice, I'd be glad to talk about Beetlejuice. I have ranted about Beetlejuice before. Uh-oh, I said it 3 times. No.